I'm calling to order this hearing, our public roundtable of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. I'm Phil Mendelson, Chair of the Council and Chair of the Committee of the Whole. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. The time is 3:34 in the afternoon, and this hearing is being held in room 500, the council chambers of the Johnny Wilson Building. The subject of this roundtable is PR 25-712, entitled the Historic Preservation Review Board, Gabriel Miller Confirmation Resolution of 2024. This resolution was introduced at the request of the mayor. The resolution that is in front of us was introduced on March 28th, 2024. If I remember correctly, it had been previously introduced. There was some scheduling challenges. The resolution was withdrawn, resubmitted. In any event, it's before us today. And the purpose of this resolution would be for the council to confirm the mayor's nomination for appointment of Gabriel Miller as an archaeologist member of the Historic Preservation Review Board. The board is the official body of advisors appointed by the mayor to guide the government and public on the preservation of historic buildings and property in the District of Columbia. The Historic Preservation Review Board also assists with the implementation of federal preservation programs and the review of federal projects in the district. The purpose of today's roundtable is to afford the public an opportunity to comment on the nomination and receive testimony as to the fitness of the nominee. The nomination is for a term that would end on July 21st, 2026. The record in this matter will be open for 2 weeks. That is, it will close at 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 6th, 2024. With that, we have one witness, and that's the nominee, Ms. Miller. If you want to come forward. While you're sitting down, I think it's important that committees have hearings on nominations. Some committees don't do that, but it's not only an opportunity for us to meet the nominee, but afford the public an opportunity to comment. And sometimes we actually get a little oversight done as part of the hearing as well. That may not happen today, but in any event, that's why I think these hearings are important. Ms. Miller, we have a statement from you. If you would please present it. Turn on your microphone. It's on.
Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson Mendelson and members of the council. My name is Gabrielle Miller, and it's my honor to be addressing you all here today. I respectfully ask for your consideration in my nomination to serve on the DC Historic Preservation Review Board. I would like to take this moment to thank Mayor Muriel E. Bowser for nominating me, and I'm honored to have had this opportunity to serve the residents of our district. In order for you to understand how I could best serve this board, I would like to tell you more about who I am. I am a fairly new resident to the District of Columbia, having moved here about 3 years ago to begin my work at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Prior to living in this beautiful and storied district, I have lived, studied, and worked in every region of the United States and in many regions of the world. Starting my life and educational career in Tucson, Arizona gave me an innate appreciation for history and cultivated an even deeper desire to understand what creates a sense of place. Those who have spent time in Arizona would attest that its sense of place is almost immediately apparent and clearly expressed through its historic built environment. Stretching from pre-Columbian society through colonization into the present, the best ways to describe this cultural landscape is as a historical palimpsest. Washington, D.C., I have discovered, is one of these beautiful examples of cultural continuity writ on the landscape. Varied layers of cultural pasts overlap and intertwine to tell its far-reaching and rich history as a historic and modern share in the shaping of society. Throughout my career, I have spent time in academic, federal, and private sectors, gaining experience in heritage conservation, historical archaeology, and various areas in underwater and African diasporic archaeologies. During this time, I have learned methods in deciphering the historic built environment and interpreting material culture. These methods serve as tools for translating the significance of place and how the preserved identity of a place is integral to shaping its future. As an archaeologist and heritage professional, I've developed an expertise in translating the significance of a space with and for a broader audience, especially when it involves communities that are often ignored or underrepresented. Through working for Indigenous communities and in spaces of my recent and deep cultural ancestry, and most recently in a public museum with a global audience, I have seen how preservation can be a powerful tool. It is my belief that these tools should be used toward building a more accurate and just cultural memory. I'm a staff member of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. I work as an archaeologist for the Center for the Study of Global Slavery. In this position, and as a doctoral student in this field, I liaise with various national and international communities within and outside the Smithsonian Network. I utilize my roles as a scholar and a collaborator to advocate with communities and their vision for preserving heritage and building futures. In my philosophy and praxis, I seek to expand the tools and spaces that can be used to create a more holistic and representational narrative of the past. Though I am a recent DC resident, I've spent much of my time immersing myself in the histories of my neighborhoods and surrounding areas, finding a sense of home most recently in the beautiful Ward 6 Southwest neighborhood. Through tools like the Anacostia Community Museum's mobile app named Before the Bulldozers, I have learned that this place, like many others in DC, has a significant history and was comprised of many influential people who were essential to building the very fabric of DC we know today. However, that history is scantly visible. Through my expertise, bolstered by my passion for building more equitably representative and culturally informed futures, I'm confident that I can be an effective and creative servant to the residents of the district while serving on the HPRB. I desire to serve as a board member of the HPRB because I acknowledge the importance of this board in providing guidance and leadership critical to shaping our shared cultural landscape. I intend to maintain the integrity and spirit of the regulations outlined in the applicable federal and municipal preservation policies, while earnestly listening to and considering the testimony of affected residents. I intend to be diligent and attentive to all proposals brought before the board, seeking to find creative solutions that both honor our history and allow us to be active in shaping our futures. And finally, I intend to invoke a spirit of consideration and stewardship in safeguarding the past in order to transform the present and future. Thank you, Chairperson Mendelson, for your time and opportunity to test before this committee. I would be happy to respond to any questions you and members of the committee may have for me this time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. So you threw me for a loop with a word in your testimony, palimpsest?
Palimpsest. So that word is a word derived from ancient manuscripts when they would clear or wash away a manuscript for someone else to write anew upon it, but the visibility of what the words that were on it previously still exist. And so archaeologically, we work a lot with layered histories and it's on the historical landscape as well. So I feel like it's a word that really brings to vision what that means.
Interesting. Thank you. Interesting. So let me see. I always at these hearings ask several questions. I have them. Do you have a sense of how much time is going to be involved with being on the board?
Yes, so I understand the meetings take place once every last Thursday. However, I understand that there are many materials to review prior to attending that meeting, as well as site visits that might be applicable to the meeting itself or any nominations that the mayor may be putting forward.
And do you have the time to serve?
I do.
I can't imagine there would be, but do you foresee any possible conflict of interest that would come up at any time?
No.
And if one came up, what would you do?
Well, if I thought that I may have any conflict of interest, I would immediately nominate the review board, the State Historic Preservation Office, and the mayor's office to seek consultation and counsel, and would certainly step away if advised to do so.
And are you current in taxes and other obligations to the district government, federal government, other states?
Yes.
I think I want to explore a little bit more with you because your testimony suggests that you have spent a lot of time looking at, I'll say, the history of things. How does that see, how do I want to put this? Does that conflict or does it harmonize with progressing into the future?
I think many people view it as a conflict, as an inherent conflict, but I would argue the opposite. We all look to the past to understand where we're going. And oftentimes it is very difficult to maintain a sense of place or even build a new sense of place without understanding what was there before. I used to work for the College of Architecture and Planning, along with the schools of anthropology and archaeology, and spent a lot of time looking at creative ways that architects of the future, architects of the now, can build concepts that they didn't think about as harmonizing with the historic environment, rather than just outright destroying it or leaving it not right on the landscape. And so I think that there are many ways that historic preservationists can collaborate with people who seek to develop new things.
So not being stuck in the past or saying, hey, we can't change, allowing for, in the case of the built environment, development or redevelopment, but also trying to not lose the past.
Absolutely.
Have you talked to any of the members of the board?
Yes, so about a year ago when we started this process, I met with Ruth and Steve quite often in the Historic Preservation Office, and was able to sit in on Historic Preservation Review Board meetings to prepare myself and to spend time accessing many examples of previous nominations and cases that came before the board.
So then you have a pretty good sense of what you're getting into.
I believe so.
Okay. Give me just a second. So I'm being reminded that the last hearing we had on nominees, I was bugging them about the allegation that there's a conflict between historic preservation and getting more affordable housing or just more affordable development. Do you see that as in conflict?
I certainly do not. If I were to point to a study that really addresses that topic, it's called Older, Smaller, Better. And it talks specifically about the role of old buildings and adaptive reuse in forms of rezoning, redistricting, and creating harmony with ways affordable housing can be a part and built into the historic landscape. Really, I think there are infinite ways for there to be solutions in that area. And there are certainly best practices that have been formed in other historic districts around the country.
So reuse can contribute to affordability.
Absolutely.
Give me a second. Anything else? I may be good for the moment. Thank you for your testimony. I have to remember that word. How do you pronounce it?
Gabrielle.
No, the word palimpsest.
Oh, palimpsest, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, they're spelled very differently. I'll have to remember that. Thank you very much. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and sorry for the scheduling problem last time, but I'm glad that you're willing to do this.
Thank you so much for your time.
So I'm going to wind down this hearing. This has been a hearing on the mayor's nomination of Gabrielle Miller to the Historic Preservation Review Board. Record in this matter will be open for 2 weeks. That is, it will close at 5 p.m. on June 6, 2024. Time is 3:49 p.m. and this hearing or roundtable is adjourned.